Stepping back into the octagon at UFC 323, Macy Barber carried more than just the pressure of a comeback fight. She carried the accumulated frustration of a forced hiatus, a period where her championship dreams were put on hold by health issues outside her control. Her unanimous decision victory over the dangerous Karine Silva was a clear tactical win, but the true triumph was deeply personal, a reclaiming of her career, her passion, and her identity as a fighter. In a revealing post-fight moment, Barber, typically known for her fierce and forward-looking confidence, was visibly moved as she processed the journey. "I don't know if I have a lot of words, honestly," she admitted, the gravity of her time away palpable in her pause. "It's been so long. I'm just really happy to be here and be really blessed." She described the profound dissonance of the past year, a professional athlete with a singular goal, yet unable to perform the very act that defines her. This conflict made her return about something more fundamental than competition. "Having that taken away from me was really challenging and frustrating," Barber explained, emphasizing that her frustration was also for the team that stood by her. This context transformed the night, so just being able to walk out to the octagon tonight was a win. For Barber, the fight was almost the bonus. The victory was in the walk. Professionally, the implications are significant. By defeating the number 11 ranked Silva, Barber did more than just add a win to her record. She executed a critical course correction. She demonstrated that her time away had not eroded her aggressive, grinding style that made her a top prospect. She managed Silva's submission threats, imposed her will in the clinch, and showed the cardio and composure of a fighter ready for the division's elite. Now, the future is forcefully back in the flyweight title picture. The division, led by champion Alexa Grasso, is deep with contenders like Manon Fiorot and Erin Blanchfield. Barber's return adds a compelling new narrative, not just of a talented fighter, but of a resilient one who has navigated a setback that had nothing to do with an opponent's skill. Her championship pursuit is no longer just about potential, it's now underscored by proven perseverance. The road to the top remains a steep climb, but Barber has just proven she possesses the most important tool for it, an unbreakable connection to her dream, recently tested and found stronger than ever. Dana White draws a hard line in a statement that resonates across the entire combat sports landscape. In a definitive statement that places competitive merit above official standings, UFC CEO Dana White has publicly declared that top-ranked lightweight contender Arman Tsarukyan will not receive a title shot based on his #1 ranking, citing the fighter's withdrawal from a prior championship opportunity as an unforgivable setback. Speaking bluntly at the UFC 323 post-fight press conference, White dismissed the significance of the UFC's own rankings in Tsarukyan's case, framing the issue as a matter of professional accountability. "He had an opportunity, and you guys all know how that played out," White stated, referring to Tsarukyan's scheduled title rematch against then champion Islam Makhachev at UFC 311. He was supposed to fight Islam for the title, and he pulled out the day before the fight. "I don't give a shit what the number next to your name says. Rankings are cool, but they don't erase what happened." White's comments underscore a stark performance-based ethos within the promotion's matchmaking. You don't just get to skip the line because you're ranked #1 on some list. He's a stud, he's young, he's gonna have big fights, but he's gotta work his way back to that title shot now. That's just the way this business works. The pivotal incident occurred during UFC 311 Fight Week in Los Angeles. Tsarukyan, who had earned the rematch with Makhachev after a competitive first fight and a subsequent winning streak, was forced to withdraw just hours before weigh-ins due to what was described as significant back pain. The late-notice cancellation led to Renato Moicano stepping in on short notice for an unsuccessful bid against Makhachev. Since that withdrawal, Tsarukyan has stayed active and impressive, most recently submitting Dan Hooker at UFC Qatar in November to solidify his position as the division's top-rated contender. Despite this, the specter of the missed opportunity now looms larger than any number beside his name. White's decree creates a complex path for Tsarukyan in a congested lightweight landscape, with an interim title fight between Justin Gaethje and Paddy Pimblett booked for UFC 324 and champion Ilia Topuria awaiting the winner. The immediate title picture is locked. Tsarukyan now likely needs multiple high-profile wins, potentially starting with a dangerous non-title bout against another top-5 opponent, like Mateusz Gamrot or the loser of the Gaethje-Pimblett clash, to rebuild the goodwill and undeniable momentum required to force his way back into a championship conversation that Dana White has explicitly closed for now. Fresh off reclaiming the UFC light heavyweight championship with a decisive victory over Magomed Ankalaev at UFC 320, Alex Pereira is already looking toward an unprecedented piece of combat sports history. The Brazilian knockout artist, now a two-division champion, has publicly declared his ambition to become the UFC's first-ever three-weight world champion, and he wants to do it by challenging the legendary Jon Jones for the heavyweight title. In a recent interview, Pereira revealed that he has already discussed the monumental move with the UFC. "I mentioned the White House against Jon Jones," Pereira stated. "I've also even spoken to the UFC about a fight at heavyweight for a third belt. It's not in my control. I have my desires, but I'm also just waiting like everyone else." This call-out adds a new layer to the already complex heavyweight landscape and the political spectacle of the proposed White House card for 2026. Jones, who vacated the heavyweight title earlier this year without facing interim champion Tom Aspinall, has expressed his own desire to return for that marquee event. The potential superfight represents a colossal clash of styles and legacies, the most dominant martial artist in UFC history against one of the most terrifying strikers the sport has ever seen. Jones has already acknowledged Pereira's challenge, suggesting he believes he can defeat the Brazilian, in part by studying the extensive training footage Pereira shares publicly. He posts the majority of his training videos online, which Bones can use to study, the report notes, highlighting the psychological gamesmanship that would precede such a bout. However, UFC CEO Dana White has yet to endorse Jones' inclusion on the White House card, let alone a fight with Pereira, especially given Jones' departure without unifying the belts. Furthermore, Pereira is not the only champion eyeing a superfight with him. Reigning middleweight king Khamzat Chimaev, during a recent ESPN MMA interview, also named Pereira as a prime target once he moves up to 205 pounds, stating, "I'm pushing for Pereira because the UFC are going to pay good for that." Pereira's quest for a third belt is a gamble of legacy against practical reality. A move to heavyweight would see him giving up significant size and grappling acumen to an all-time great like Jones. Yet, Poatan has built a career on defying odds and executing seemingly impossible missions, from winning UFC gold in just his 8th MMA fight to capturing a second title in a new division. For now, the proposed super fight exists in the realm of ambition and negotiation, but by vocalizing his desire to hunt Jon Jones in heavyweight gold, Alex Pereira has once again shifted the narrative of his career from defending what he has to conquering what has never been done. The waiting game has begun, and the entire combat sports world is watching to see if the UFC will book this historic high-stakes collision. Former bantamweight champion Sean O'Malley is reading between the lines of Petr Yan's laughter. After Yan reclaimed the UFC bantamweight title with a masterful victory over Merab Dvalishvili at UFC 323, the question of a potential rematch with Suga was posed to the new champion. His response, a dismissive chuckle, has not gone unnoticed by O'Malley as he prepares for his own pivotal comeback fight against Song Yadong next month. In a recent video on his YouTube channel, O'Malley dissected Yan's reaction, framing it as part of a pattern of avoidance. Tim Welch, coach, showed me this morning they asked Petr if he would give me a rematch if I beat Song or whatever, and he starts laughing, O'Malley noted. Every time Petr's been asked about a rematch, even before this, he's avoided it. O'Malley was careful not to label Yan's behavior as fear, but he questioned Yan's rationale. Yan has previously suggested O'Malley is not yet deserving of another title shot, a stance Suga finds contradictory. Wouldn't that be a great reason to defend the belt? O'Malley argued, drawing a parallel to his own career. I fought Cheeto, Marlon Vera, he added, referencing his immediate rematch with Marlon Vera to avenge his first career loss, a move he sees as the mark of a true champion. The history between the two adds a compelling layer. O'Malley defeated Yan via a narrow and highly controversial split decision in their first encounter in 2023, a result that many, including Yan, disputed. That win catapulted O'Malley to a title shot and the championship, while the loss sent Yan on a path of rebuilding that he has now spectacularly completed. For a Yan-O'Malley rematch to materialize, O'Malley first must navigate a dangerous hurdle in the form of the heavy-hitting Song Yadong. I just gotta go and get through Song. No easy task there, he acknowledged, keeping his focus on the immediate challenge. A victory would re-establish O'Malley in the win column after 2 losses to Merab Dvalishvili ended his title reign. But it may not be enough to leapfrog other contenders like Umar Nurmagomedov, who is also loudly campaigning for a shot. Yan himself pointed to Dvalishvili and Nurmagomedov as more logical next opponents in the post-UFC 323 landscape. This leaves O'Malley in a position where he must not only win, but likely win in a spectacular fashion to force the UFC's hand and turn Yan's dismissive laugh into a signed contract. For Sean O'Malley, the road back to the title is paved with more than just rankings. It's about narrative. By highlighting Yan's perceived avoidance and framing a potential rematch as a champion's duty, O'Malley is already building the storyline. His next step is to make that story impossible to ignore with a highlight reel performance in February. In the wake of the shocking and controversial flyweight title change at UFC 323, former 2-division champion and commentator Daniel Cormier has proposed a decisive path forward for the 125-pound division. With new champion Joshua Van crowned due to an early injury to Alexander Pantoja and surging contender Tatsuro Taira fresh off a dominant win over Brandon Moreno, Cormier believes the UFC must act swiftly to capitalize on the momentum of its new generation rather than let the division stall. Speaking on his podcast, Cormier addressed the awkward situation head-on. Pantoja had been beating everybody, but now he's going to be out for a bit, he acknowledged, referring to the legitimate arm injury that will sideline the former champion. That was a real injury. It will take some time. With that recovery window in mind, Cormier's solution is clear and urgent. Book Van against Taira immediately. I believe that Tatsuro Taira, after beating Brandon Moreno and finishing Brandon Moreno, should be fighting for the belt, Cormier stated. He was so convinced of this logic that he revealed a direct pitch to UFC matchmaker Mick Maynard at the event. I looked over at Mick Maynard last night and I said to him, book them tomorrow. Cormier's advocacy for the matchup isn't just about crowning a mandatory challenger, it's a calculated plan to refresh the entire weight class. He envisions slotting Van versus Taira onto the already announced UFC 325 pay-per-view card in early 2026. That's 2 months since Pantoja got hurt, he calculated, emphasizing the perfect timing to maintain division activity. The long-term strategy is where Cormier's idea gains depth. He explains that by the time the winner of Van Taira is ready to defend again, Pantoja would ideally be fully recovered and waiting. Say the winner of that fight needs 6 months before the next fight, now you're 8 months post-Pantoja's injury. Now you've either got him going into the rematch with Joshua Van or he's fighting a brand new champion. The whole weight class seems refreshed because it kept moving. This approach solves multiple problems. It gives Van, whose championship win was met with criticism for his celebratory reaction, a chance to earn public respect in a legitimate title defense. It provides Tyra, an undefeated phenom, the title shot he earned by beating a legend. Most importantly, it ensures the flyweight division continues its compelling narrative with active stars rather than entering a prolonged holding pattern. For Cormier, the equation is simple. The future of the division is ready now, and the UFC shouldn't wait. The bitter rivalry reignited after Dvalishvili and Yan's feud escalates after UFC 323 title shakeup. The epic saga between Merab Dvalishvili and Yan is far from over. If anything, the flames of their rivalry have been doused in gasoline and reignited, promising a third act brimming with even more personal animosity. This past Saturday, at UFC 323, Petr Yan authored a stunning career resurgence, dethroning the seemingly unstoppable machine to reclaim the bantamweight title in a performance hailed as a tactical masterpiece. Yet, the final bell did not signal a truce. It merely opened a new front in their war, this time fought on social media and in the court of public opinion. Yan, entering the T-Mobile Arena as a significant underdog, defied expectations with a near-flawless display. He systematically dismantled Dvalishvili's relentless pressure game, picking him apart with a blistering jab, crippling body shots, and impeccable takedown defense. It was a complete reversal of their first encounter in 2023, where Dvalishvili's historic 49 takedown attempt marathon earned him the belt. This time, Yan was in control, transforming his prior loss into a definitive victory and silencing the doubters who believed his championship window had closed. In the aftermath, a brief, unexpected moment of civility appeared to flicker. Social media exchanges suggested a mutual respect, with Yan appearing to wish his rival well. However, that facade shattered almost immediately. In a video interview, Yan disavowed the friendly sentiment, claiming his management team was responsible for the posts and bluntly stated, "We won't be friends in the future." Dvalishvili, never one to retreat from a conflict, seized on the contradiction with both hands. He launched a furious counter on social media, excoriating Yan as a liar and vowing retaliation. Never believe a word he says. He just admitted that he doesn't write his own social media. How quickly he changed his mind. I thought he was humbled when I beat him in 2023 and I was friendly toward him. Forget it now, liar. Game on. This explosive post-fight chapter guarantees that the sporting stakes of their inevitable trilogy will be laced with genuine vitriol. Dvalishvili has already declared that Yan is his only target for his return. He believes his record-shattering 2025, which saw him defend the title 3 times before falling at UFC 323, warrants an immediate rematch. The question now is whether the UFC's matchmakers will honor that claim or look to other contenders like Umar Nurmagomedov, forcing Dvalishvili to cue once more. The combat sports world has taken note of the escalating drama. UFC commentator Joe Rogan, analyzing the fight on his podcast, labeled Yan's victory a masterclass, acknowledging the brutal, specialized training camp required to solve the puzzle of Dvalishvili's suffocating pace. That technical admiration, however, is now backdrop to a deeply personal grudge. What began as a competitive rivalry for bantamweight supremacy has evolved into a starkly personal feud. With the score tied at 1-1 and the championship gold back around Yan's waist, the stage is set for a definitive decider. The only certainty is when the machine and No Mercy meet again, it will be about far more than just a belt. It will be a collision of pride, legacy, and a mutual simmering disdain that 5 rounds in the octagon could not extinguish. Canadian strawweight contender Gillian Robertson didn't just accept a short-notice change of opponent, she welcomed it with open arms, believing the new matchup has catapulted her directly into the title conversation. Originally scheduled to face Yasmin Lucindo at UFC Vegas 112 this Saturday, Robertson was instead paired with the higher-ranked Amanda Lemos after Lucindo withdrew. For Robertson, the shift wasn't a setback, it was a stroke of fate aligning with her own call-out from months prior. "It's nice to have the notice. Lemos is the girl whom I called out after my last fight, so the stars aligned," Robertson said on the Just Scrap radio podcast. "It's fate." Robertson, who enters the bout as a -184 favorite despite Lemos's number 5 ranking, expressed surprise that the 37-year-old Brazilian veteran accepted such a quick turnaround after a recent loss to top contender Tatiana Suarez. "When you are a little bit older, you don't usually take the big risks," Robertson noted, "but it's something I welcome." The matchup appeals to Robertson on both a strategic and career advancement level. During her last camp, she and her team identified Lemos as an ideal next step. "After watching that fight, Lemos versus Lucindo, I felt like it was the ideal matchup. It made her ranked number 5 and I was in the top 10. I felt like it was a fair jump," Robertson explained. She sees the fight as a classic striker versus grappler clash, one where her elite ground game can neutralize Lemos's notorious knockout power. "Game plan is completely changed. Amanda Lemos is like Lucindo's big sister, a very similar style, just a lot more relaxed. She doesn't need to push the pace, but is trying to find those big shots. I feel like the submission is coming." A decisive victory, particularly a finish, could dramatically reshape the title picture. Robertson pointed directly at the recent performance of Tatiana Suarez, who dominated Lemos for 3 rounds but could not secure a finish, as her benchmark. "If I can go out there and outperform Tatiana, as she just held Lemos for 3 rounds, so if I can go out and finish her, I think that automatically secures that spot for me, and I deserve the title shot," Robertson declared, staking her claim to leapfrog the current number 1 contender. With champion Zhang Weili set to face the winner of the upcoming Yan Xiaonan versus Verna Yandiroba bout, the strawweight division is in flux. A spectacular finish over a highly ranked veteran like Lemos would give Robertson a compelling highlight reel argument to bypass the queue. For Gillian Robertson, Saturday night isn't just another fight, it's a calculated gamble on short notice, with the ultimate payoff being a chance to compete for UFC gold.
With the spotlight of the UFC's Paramount Plus debut squarely upon him, Paddy Pimblett is embracing the role of confident challenger with a bold and specific prediction, declaring his intention to shatter expectations by knocking out the legendary Justin Gaethje to claim the interim lightweight title at UFC 324. In a recent interview, the baddie directly addressed the prevailing narrative surrounding the matchup. Most analysts point to Gaethje's iconic concussive striking and Pimblett's opportunistic grappling as the defining clash of styles, suggesting the Brit's safest route is to take the fight to the mat. Pimblett, however, plans to defy that logic entirely. "I think everyone's going to be shocked, to be honest, because I think I'm going to knock him out," he proclaimed. Dismissing the tactical groundwork made by pundits, he added, "People think I'm just going to grapple and take him down, but I'm not. I'm going to come out and I'm going to put it on him." Pimblett didn't stop at merely predicting a knockout. He provided a round estimate, drawing a direct line to the most impressive victory of his UFC career. "I don't see him getting past the 3rd, he stated, referencing his blistering first-round stoppage of the former title challenger. This comparison serves as a reminder of Pimblett's own fight-ending power and frames Gaethje as the next elite veteran on his hit list. Perhaps more revealing than his fight prediction is his stance on the championship at stake. While interim titles are often viewed as temporary accolades, Pimblett intends to treat this one as an undisputed coronation. He addressed the status of the absent undisputed champion Ilia Topuria with a mix of personal decency and professional defiance. "Obviously, me and Ilia might not like each other, but I wish him nothing but the best with all his family shit. "It's nothing to do with fighting," Pimblett said, acknowledging their heated rivalry while respecting Topuria's personal reasons for hiatus. He then made his championship philosophy crystal clear. "But when I win this belt, I'm the champ for now. I don't care if it says interim on it, I'm the champ. Ilya is out of the cage." This statement is a strategic power play. It frames UFC 324 not as a #1 contender bout, but as a definitive championship event in its own right. By declaring himself the champ for now, Pimblett seeks to establish immediate legitimacy and narrative control, ensuring that a victory would position him not as a waiting challenger, but as a reigning title holder whom Topuria must eventually confront to reclaim his throne. It's a mindset that adds immense pressure to the moment. Pimblett isn't just fighting for a future opportunity. In his view, he's fighting for the present-day crown. Now he must back up that towering self-belief by doing what few believe he can: stand and trade with, and ultimately finish one of the most feared strikers in lightweight history.
In a detailed and pointed response, former UFC light heavyweight champion Jamal Hill has publicly presented his side of the explosive altercation with Hall of Famer Joanna at UFC 323, crafting a narrative that frames his viral threat as a defensive reaction to provocation and revealing a backstory of personal friction. Breaking his silence in a video on his YouTube channel, Hill immediately addressed a key misconception, stating, "My girl was not even there. My girl was not at the fights at UFC 323. This directly challenges early rumors that the argument began between Joanna and Hill's girlfriend. Hill then alleged that the confrontation was initiated by Joanna with specific, violent threats. "Now she's threatening me. Then she says, I should have smashed your girl's head in. Go over and fucking smashed your head in too. I don't give a fuck," Hill claimed. He positioned his own now infamous warning, "Do not touch my girl or I'ma knock you the fuck out," as a direct response to these provocations. Now I'm like, she's threatened me and she's threatened my girl. I have not threatened her. I have not raised my voice at her. She said, "You're talking shit." To explain the underlying animosity, Hill delved into history. He described a prior social event where the two parties were seated together amicably. The tension, according to Hill, stemmed from the actions of Joanna's manager. Hill candidly admitted to having "shoot my shot" with Joanna years ago after the infamous 2018 bus incident, an advance his current girlfriend was already aware of. He alleged that during the social gathering, the manager was trying to drop messages to my girl, trying to dry snitch, ostensibly to stir drama by revealing this old flirtation. In Hill's telling, this created a simmering disrespect that boiled over at UFC 323. His outburst was not an unprovoked threat toward a smaller woman, but a heated retort to what he perceived as direct and unwarranted threats against himself and his partner from a fellow professional fighter. This account starkly contrasts with Joanna's earlier statement, where she expressed embarrassment over the situation, claimed she was standing up for her reputation against falsehoods, and said she did not deserve to be threatened. Hill's version reframes the entire incident. He becomes the defender reacting to aggression rather than the instigator issuing intimidating threats. With both figures, a recently active former champion and a newly inducted Hall of Famer, now offering conflicting testimonies, the incident is mired in a classic he-said-she-said stalemate. The truth likely lies somewhere in the middle, lost in the heat of a chaotic moment fueled by old grievances and personal pride. What's clear is that the bad blood is now out in the open, ensuring this clash outside the cage will remain a contentious sidebar to the UFC 323 legacy.
A familiar and pioneering figure has quietly stepped back into the gym, sparking whispers of a potential return that could shake up the combat sports landscape. Gina Carano, the trailblazing star who helped usher women's MMA into the mainstream before her last fight in 2009, has been training consistently at Syndicate MMA in Las Vegas for the past 2 months, and her coach believes she still possesses the tools to compete at the highest level. Carano, who transitioned to a successful acting career after a knockout loss to Chris Cyborg in Strikeforce, recently posted training footage that ignited speculation about her intentions. Her coach, John Wood, confirmed her presence and offered a compelling assessment of her capabilities. "She's training with us right now," Wood said. "She's been there for the last month or two. To be able to have them in the gym and be able to train with them, work on some things, it's been really cool." When asked directly about Carano's potential to fight again, Wood was unequivocal. "Well, do I think she can still fight? Absolutely. Do I think she's still got pop and can lay it on somebody? Absolutely." He stopped short of confirming a comeback, noting that decision rests solely with Carano, but his observations of her work ethic were telling. "She's back in there every day. She's got that fire lit, and she's training her butt off. I expect you might hear some things at some point in time here." The timing is ripe for narrative possibility. Rumors have swirled for weeks about a potential return for Carano's longtime would-be rival, Ronda Rousey, who is linked to a boxing match with Katie Taylor, a rumor UFC CEO Dana White recently dismissed. A Carano comeback would immediately resurrect the specter of the blockbuster UFC fight that never happened. They were in negotiations for a historic bout in 2014, a showdown that fell apart and left fans wondering what if for over a decade. While Carano has not hinted at her plans, the mere fact that a 43-year-old pioneer, who never formally retired, is training with purpose under a top coach in Las Vegas is significant. It suggests the flame hasn't been extinguished. Whether the goal is a legitimate comeback, a one-off legacy fight, or simply personal fulfillment, Gina Carano's presence back in the gym ensures that one of women's MMA's most iconic what-if stories is suddenly and intriguingly back on the table.